TEISS Overview. This is going to be a quick and dirty overview of the important things in TEISS that you need to know that you might forget when you come back and look at this in 6 months or 5 years. The main TEISS functions that we're going to review are the map and what you can do with the map interface, and then the input view, which is hands down my favorite view over the map. Then we're going to talk about how to save your project to zip, which is really important in terms of backing up and extracting from zip. And why that is particularly important is because that's how we can send the project back and forth. If you zip it, then you can transfer it to another computer. You could email it to somebody depending upon the file size. So those are two important options we'll show you. We're going to just review the TEISS help function, which does help in many cases, especially in terms of where things are if you're looking for them in TEISS. How to add a new user to your project so that somebody else on the same computer can come in and update information, and how to change your password in TEISS for when you want them to stop being able to do that. Here are some important things about the map interface. First of all, check the title. Make sure that you're working in the project that you think you're working in, and check your database logbook for the name of your project, and you can see the path is here. So when we talk about recording the path, you should see the path that you've recorded in your database logbook that you want to be working in up here at the very top in the blue on top of your TEISS in the title bar. Then underneath the title bar is the menu bar, and then very important, make sure that you're operating in the right inventory year, because the NEI data may have been from 2011, but you are actually gathering data from last year, which may be 2013, and you can change the inventory year by clicking on this calendar picture here. Then the query tools can be useful. For example, if you've got a huge project and you're looking in data imported from NEI, maybe perhaps from a large county, you can search for facilities by clicking in here. Like if you know you're looking for Salt River project, you could type in Salt River, or you could type in SRP, for example. Then another important thing to check in your map is that the legend here will show what facilities or non-point sources you have. Then very important down here, there's the 2 tabs, and this often is off the edge of your screen. It may be so far at the bottom of your screen that this is obscured, so make sure that you're clicking on the overlays when you want to be looking at the map, or if you want to be making changes to the labels, there's the label tab there. Then the source type toolbar is here. You can click on these little grabber bars and move them around, but you can see that these have pretty obvious significance depending upon their picture. And then always remember when you're clicking in the map to click on the pointer if you want to select something, and if you forget and leave the plus sign as what you selected, then this will be depressed, and then if you click on the map, it will just keep expanding it till you don't know what you're looking at anymore, and then you have to get back either using the minus sign here, or by using this hand and panning around, or using these maximize and minimize buttons. So let's say you've accidentally expanded it and this is all you see. You can click this button and it will take it to the minimum extents of the map, and that way you can then pan around if you want to by clicking on the hand button and panning, finding an area you want to zoom in on, and then using the zoom in button. One thing that's really cool about TEISS is you can see the latitude and longitude here at the bottom. When your cursor is over the map, it will tell you exactly where we are, and you can really zoom in. Another important thing to know is if your toolbars aren't in the same places as they seem to be in some pictures, you can move them around with these grabber bars here. Let's talk about how you would add a facility. So there's 2 ways to add a facility to a TEISS project. One is to do it graphically using the map, and that way you would use these icons here where you've got a facility, which looks like a factory, emission release point, icons for non-point sources, non-road mobile sources, on-road mobile sources, and then events. The first way is to use this, and you can click on a location, then you can make a little shape, and that turns into a facility that you've created on your map, and then it opens up the linear data entry screen. where you would add the information about this facility here, and as you remember, the green are mandatory fields. So I am not going to save it. So remember, if you entered information that you want to save, you have to click this OK. If you're just viewing information and you don't want to save it, click this X, and that just gets you out of it without making any changes. And this is the linear data entry screen, and this is the other way to add facilities or sources to your project, and I prefer this way. The way I get to this linear data entry screen is just click on this input, data input on your toolbar, and then you can see that since I have imported the 2011 NEI data, I've got point locations of all the different counties in Arizona, and then I can go through and add a facility after I decide, okay, it's in Yuma County, for example. Then I could go to facilities, and then if it's not listed here and I want to add it, then you can use linear data entry and add and go through the different pieces of information that we've reviewed already, what you would add about that source. I don't want to change any of this information, so I'm going to click the X button. Two things that are key about the map: if you don't like the way things are showing up on your map, experiment with moving the different overlays around. So for example, in this case, tribes is at the bottom, so that means it's going to be underneath some of the other layers. And for example, we've got some big non-point sources here which are obscuring the layers underneath. So just to experiment with how that looks, I'm going to click on tribes and I'm going to move that layer up, and now you can see that it is on top of on-road mobile sources, for example. Another important thing to know about is if you want to change the colors of any of the sources or items on your map, you click this that looks kind of like a Rubik's Cube, and you click graphical options, and then that opens up this graphical options box, and you can experiment with some of the colors, for example. So the color mappings, you can select the different things you want to change the color of, and then you can change the color here. Experiment with clicking on any of these items and then change the colors that come up. And this seems like it is just frivolous, but actually it can make a big difference in how your map looks, and you might want to be consistent with other maps. So that's something to access the graphical options that looks like this Rubik's Cube icon. Whenever you see a plus sign here, that means that there are options that will open up, turning that into a minus sign. So let's take a look at labels. If you click on this label tab at the bottom, you can see that only labels for states and counties and on-road mobile sources are listed. If you click on tribes, then that will show the labels, and if you want to modify how the labels look so that it's centered perhaps, you can click on the Rubik's Cube graphical options, or you could just click, make sure that you've got the arrow selected so that you're using your cursor to select. You can click on the item, and then it opens up the option of graphical options also. So either way, it will open up this dialog box, and then you can see that you've got graphical options for color mappings as well as labels. So if you click on tribes here, then it will allow you to change the label orientation, and you can experiment with how that looks by clicking apply, and then it will move it while you're in this dialog box, and you can see, all right, that's better because now we can see the whole thing. Last thing on the map to discuss: if you get your labels set up the way you like them, but you only want some of the items on the map to be labeled, you could go through and uncheck them and then check only those that you want. So for example, you can uncheck any of the labels you don't want to show on your map.